Everyone knows that we are soft generations, which means that we all know instinctively that surviving in the wild is not easy for us. Not at all. Sure, we used to be pretty good at tearing through forests and conquering mountains, but these days, the only thing we tear are hot Cheeto packets. And it's not just because we have never been exposed to the wild before. We would argue that even one of the most famous adventurers would not be able to stand the wild without a huge TV crew and insurance on hand. So how can an average person survive in the wild? There's a huge secret behind it. Comment down below if you already know what it is. But first, let's explore the meaning of the term wild. It of course refers to many ecological systems that have virtually no civil development, like buildings and creepy gas stations. But ecological systems include oceans, deserts, swamps, etc. So which one should we go to? Today we will focus on the forests due to their accessibility and a high chance that some of us may have already been lost in the woods. Here are two things that can absolutely ruin your adventure. 1. If you told anyone where you were going and when to expect you back. This will first and foremost give you hope of return, whereby you will only need a few days worth of water and a cave to survive. Nothing else, because you know that a search party will be coming for you soon. Next, it will end your adventure way too early. Surviving a week without food is harder than you think, but not impossible. But if you know that you're going to be stuck in the woods for a while, you better get something to chomp on, lest you faint and become dinner instead of having dinner. The second thing that can ruin your adventure is bringing along a cell phone, because as soon as you feel threatened by the wild, you'll call someone and be rescued. In our scenario, let's say you are a grade A oblivious person and forgot to tell anyone where you were going. Plus, you left your phone at home still on the charger. The story goes something like this. The second you realize you are lost in forests, you will panic. And we cannot emphasize enough on the statement, do not panic. Do you know what panic will do? Drain your energy and make you dumb. Remember how you couldn't solve math problems to save your life while dieting? This is the same situation, on steroids. Panic will quicken metabolism, and without glucose, your main energy source, your brain will become foggy. If it wasn't obvious, a foggy brain does not survive in the wild. So take a few deep breaths and calm down to the point where you can think. And your first thought should be, what am I carrying and how can I find water? If you are carrying something heavy and useless like a figurine, drop it. There's no point in straining yourself. But make sure you don't drop anything that can be used to build and sustain a fire. For example, a book. If you are carrying a matchbook or a lighter, you better keep it dry at the risk of your life, because it might save you more than once or twice later on. As for why water is so important, it is solely because you will die from starvation, sure, but the death will be much more rapid and gruesome if you get dehydrated. It is best if you can find water and ration it. But how do you ration water? Experts say, don't take little sips throughout the day. Wait until a couple of hours, then take a big gulp. That way your body knows that drought is over. Second order of business is food. Don't expect to hunt down a deliciously juicy deer that you'll be able to fry with some wild herbs. Expect eggs, bugs, and edible leaves. That's it. Almost all of the backpackers in the wild survive on mostly ant eggs. Here comes another important note. This is the worst time to be picky. You can't say ew and move on, because guess where you will be moving on to? Your death. So try and collect literally everything edible that you know is safe. Did we mention it would also be the worst time to get poisoned by berries? Don't eat anything that you're not familiar with. If you can't absolutely not deal with the thought of eating bugs and can't find bird eggs, we have a little hack for possibly hunting larger animals. Make a hood from whatever material you can find and hold it up using a very, very fragile stick of wood. Put some food under the hood, go to sleep, and hope that you wake up to a live dinner next to you. Of course, this method is mostly unreliable, so try to find alternative sources of energy. If you can't find a body of water, it would be wise to fashion some sort of a spear or net and catch fish. However, these fish contain a large amount of bacteria and viruses that will mess you up more than any forest. Be sure to cook it first. If you can't get a fire going, make sure you peel away all the skin and only eat the meat. At this point, you should have the basics down, so you should calm down further. Now the most important matter is finding or making shelter. Ideally, your shelter should be near a water source like a lake. Even if you are near a muddy area, you can dig a tunnel so that the water collects in a hole. This will provide you with an unpleasant source of hydration, but any sane person would choose the possibility of getting cholera over the certainty of dying through dehydration. To somewhat sanitize your water, you can strain it through a piece of cloth. Going a step further, you can fashion some sort of a distillation tool. The basic mechanism is you need to evaporate your water and then collect it in a container. Even this is not ideal because you will be deprived of electrolytes, which can lead to dizziness and unconsciousness. There is an additional problem of the lake could flood and kill you in the middle of the night. So if it is really hot, take yourself a bit further and find shade. There, learn how to make a fire. If you have a lighter or a matchbox, the situation would become a piece of cake. If you don't, you'll need to labor for a bit before getting some heat. Take a sharpened piece of wood and a larger flat piece of wood. Twirl the first part furiously between your palms until you see a slight spark. Fan the spark until it becomes a considerable flame. Then keep adding materials like book pages and more wood to keep it alive. As for the shelter, just make an umbrella-shaped structure of sticks and spread leaves on the top. Now you're ready to be a hermit, but you don't want that. You want to get back to the society where you can interact with people, bully racist cops, and curse McDonald's for their broken ice cream machine. The best way to reach civilization would be to get moving, because remember, you didn't tell anyone where you were. The best way to get a move on would be to follow an already established trail. If that's impossible, just follow a river. If you can't find a river, go downwards to find one. Don't forget to keep adding more food and water to your stock. You really don't want to die 5 feet away from a village. To attract people and repel animals and bugs, light a fire wherever you go. If you create a fire with lots of smoke, chances of someone finding you increase by a lot. You can also leave signs around that show that you have been bumbling around in the forest, so some kind soul finds you. There's the possibility of spending years in a forest, particularly if you have stranded due to a plane crash in the middle of a tropical island. In that case, the most important thing would be to not lose hope. It can get frustrating to work a day in and day out simply to survive in the most gruesome way possible. And don't worry about the food. Humans have been created to adapt to any surrounding they are put in. One adventurer described salmon eyes tasting like little candies to him, simply because his body was craving vitamin A. Who knows? After a few years of being lost, you might prefer worms over tacos. So what can you do after you found your way back? If you were near starvation before, do not, and we repeat, do not gorge yourself on food. It might seem so tempting, but this is what caused many Holocaust victims to perish after Hitler died. This is called refeeding syndrome. It basically overwhelms your already fragile body until it gives up on you. Water can be drunk in any amount, and Netflix can be watched in a heavier dose. Plus, you'll have a killer story to tell, so you can get busy writing a novel or giving interviews. This was your story. How you got lost and how you overcame every challenge to ultimately get back home. At which part of this story do you think you would probably die? For us, it was getting a move on. We would just wait until a human rescued us or an animal ate us. Lazy people problems. Make sure you like this video and share it with all the nature enthusiasts you know. Subscribe to our channel for more tips that could save your life. This was Big Facts, bringing you the best and craziest content on the internet. Don't forget to tune in for the next episode.